biggest race ever run in the United States. The Boomers mounted and rode to a point half a mile south of this town, where a wide stretch of sand, with no more than 1/8 of a mile of water, formed the only barrier to Oklahoma. Here they formed a line and patiently waited for the signal to break for the promised land.
The race was started by Lieutenant Samuel Adair of the 5th U.S. Cavalry. He nodded to a nearby soldier, and the strains of a bugle rang out. Oklahoma wasn't really free. Its name comes from 2 Indian words meaning red people, because back in the 1830s, the area had been set aside as reservations for Indian tribes evicted from their lands east of the Mississippi. But the inexorable march of America's Empire of Liberty could not be stopped, with settlers, ranchers, and the railroads all eyeing these unassigned lands. Further north, on the Great Plains, the Sioux and the Apaches, formidable horsemen, had put up serious resistance. Most famously in June 1876, when they wiped out the 7th U.S. Cavalry, commanded by a flamboyant, often impetuous Civil War veteran called George Custer. What exactly happened on the Little Bighorn River in Montana will never be known. Once the West was conquered, it was ripe for marketing, and no one did more to sell the West to America and the world than William F. Cody. Cody was a genuine frontiersman, at various times Army scout, buffalo hunter, and Indian fighter. But it was Buffalo Bill's Wild West that really made his name. Modelled on travelling circuses like Barnum's, the show toured America and Europe for more than 30 years. The following summer, it took Britain by storm. Queen Victoria attended a special performance at Earl's Court in London. One of the stars was a tiny young woman called Miss Annie Oakley. She would come on, waving sweetly to the audience, but her whole act was built around shooting at her husband. The US Congress created America's first national park at Yellowstone in the Rockies, declaring that it was
hereby reserved and withdrawn from settlement, occupancy, or sale.
It was Republican President Theodore Roosevelt who put this issue firmly on the national agenda. During his presidency, Roosevelt saved many prehistoric Indian remains and also sites of natural beauty such as the Grand Canyon. Against business opposition, he created millions of acres of new national forest, and he also devoted large parts of his annual messages to Congress in the 1900s to what was being called conservation.
We are prone to speak of the resources of this country as inexhaustible. This is not so. The mineral wealth of the country, the coal, iron, oil, gas, and the like, does not reproduce itself, and therefore is certain to be exhausted ultimately.
The Wild West myth of Buffalo Bill celebrated a heroic past that never really existed. The wilderness movement fought to preserve the present against a rapacious future. As far as most Americans were concerned, the Indian problem had finally been solved. But managing America's natural resources would be a challenge through the 20th century and beyond.